Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here, and today we're talking about the recent phenomenon that is the mobile game Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. Love it or hate it, play it or dismiss it, Duel Links is wildly popular. It's racked up over 25 million downloads in less than 3 months. Some people love the nostalgic feel of Duel Links with the cast of characters all being from the classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime. Others like the simplicity of the game, where the field has been shrunken to micro size and newer, more complicated mechanics have been removed completely. And while this makes Duel Links much more approachable than the real card game, it actually presents some new problems with card functionality. I've decided to list some of those strange and funny examples, cards that simply won't work in the game or oddly enough would be too powerful because of the game's infrastructure. Now just to clarify, I will be admitting many extremely powerful cards that either by Konami standard or the player standard has been deemed too broken. So cards like Pot of Greed, Delinquent Duel, and Fiber Jar, they don't even need to be mentioned. In layman's terms, if it's ever been on the ban list, then you don't need to expect it on this list. So cards like Breaker the Magical Warrior, Injection Fairy Lily, and Magician of Faith sadly will be excluded as well. And secondly, as Duel Links takes place during the original Duel Monsters era, I will only be considering cards that were released during that time frame as well. Basically, Legends of Blue Eyes White Dragon through Flaming Eternity cards only. Without further ado, welcome to the top 10 old school cards you'll never see in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Hierarchy. Number 10, Xing Zhen Hu. So this might seem like a really weird place to start the list. Xing Zhen Hu doesn't actually destroy cards, so how powerful can it be, you might ask? What you have to consider is, in a game where you only get 3 spell and trap zones, the ability to lock down 2 of them would be incredibly powerful, and it would also force duelists who have fallen victim to the card into a really tight and bad situation where to activate a continuous spell, they would lose their ability to activate other spells because obviously all 3 of their spell and trap zones would be full. Number 9, Blade Knight. This monster might not look so tough on the surface, but ask anyone who has played through the old Chaos days and they will assure you that there was a point where Blade Knight was a very meta-relevant card. For starters, in Duel Links, 1750 is considered to be top tier in a level 4 monster. Blade Knight can well exceed that with a potential 2000 attack, and just as equally important, Blade Knight's ability to negate flip effects while you control no other monsters is huge because flip effects were incredibly powerful and popular during Yu-Gi-Oh's first era, but with only 3 monster zones, it is actually much more common to see players meet this condition without feeling like they're holding back. Under the current state of the game in Duel Links, Blade Knight would be maybe a little too powerful. Number 8, SLATE Warrior. This spot honestly could have gone to a bunch of 1900 monsters, as the inclusion of any one of them in the Duel Links would make them instant staples in nearly every deck. Duel Links doesn't really have 4-star 1800 vanillas yet, so the thought of a 4-star 1900 monster who can possibly go as high as 2400 with the bonus effect of permanently reducing anything that destroys this guy in battle by 500 attack and defense is downright scary. SLATE Warrior used to be broken in the old Game Boy Advance Yu-Gi-Oh games, so in Duel Links he'd basically be a god card. Number 7, Scapegoat. This one is as easily disappointing as it is obvious. Disappointing because Scapegoat was one of Joey's favorite cards and got him out of a lot of sticky situations in Battle City. It also could be argued that it's the face of the most loved format in Yu-Gi-Oh history, but the obvious is the card can't even be resolved with only 3 possible monster zones. Looks like Janochi-chan is going to have to figure out some other ways to win duels in the world of Duel Links. Number 6, Needle Sealing. So Needle Sealing has always been an extremely niche but possibly powerful card, as in real life Yu-Gi-Oh! It holds the ability to wipe out all your opponent's monsters during their turn. This type of power usually earns you the attention of the Forbidden Unlimited list at one point or another. What makes Needle Sealing so special and skillful is it can only be activated when there are 4 or more monsters on the field, meaning your opponent probably heavily overextended. The reason Needle Sealing will probably never see the light of day in Duel Links is simply because the card doesn't work all that well for its intended purpose. Needle Sealing is supposed to punish overextension to the highest degree, but in Duel Links it could only be activated while you control a monster as well, obviously meaning that your cards would be at risk just like your opponents. Putting Needle Sealing in the game would just kind of be pointless. Number 5, Ground Collapse. When Ground Collapse was released all the way back in Pharaoh's Servant, eager duelists tried out the card in hopes of slowing down their opponents or stopping them from being able to use the full force of their explosive strategies. This did not work, like at all, because 3 monster zones is more than enough in Yu-Gi-Oh! To thoroughly destroy your opponents. On the other hand, 1 monster zone, yeah, not so much. In a game where premium spell and trap removal is basically non-existent, Ground Collapse would become essentially a floodgate. You spend 1 card to lock down your opponent to 1 monster, and you also completely remove their ability to summon 2 tribute monsters, unless they have the assistance of cards like Soul Exchange. Needless to say, Ground Collapse is way too strong for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. Number 4, Destiny board and any of its pieces. This one is almost identical to Scapegoat, another example of an important anime card that simply can't be resolved because of the limitation of 3 spell and trap zones, but in my personal opinion, this one is undoubtedly less fair to Bakura than losing Scapegoat is to Joey. In the quarterfinals of Bakura's match against Atem and Battle City, Destiny board is literally Bakura's win condition. He can't even use it in Duel Links. What a shame. I mean, how's he gonna win now? Number 3, and totally not Gate Guardian, Megamorph. Alright, I'll admit it, I kind of fucked up. I thought that Gate Guardian was extremely difficult to summon, but truth be told, it actually is in Duel Links. It's just not in the packs, it's in the card trainer. However, Megamorph is not, and that's because Megamorph historically has been known as pretty much just an OTK enabling card. Look at decks like the Cyberstein and Demise OTKs, both of which have actually won Shonen Jump championships in the past. Now think about how dangerous a card like this could be if you only had to do half that damage to OTK your opponent. Megamorph could almost give a card like Jerry Beans Man the ability to one-shot your opponent, and I don't think Konami wants that. Number 2, OJAMA Trio. This one's kind of like Ground Collapse, but essentially a troll version. In the real game, OJAMA Trio can be mildly annoying, taking up most of your monster zones, but a crafty duelist can still play around it. You can use your other 2 zones. You can use the tokens for synchro summons. My point is, you basically have a lot of options. In Duel Links, your options shrink to almost 0. Not only does OJAMA Trio completely clog your field, but the synchro mechanic doesn't even exist, so that's not an option either. There's also basically no mash removal in the game, so don't bother thinking that that's going to bail you out. OJAMA Trio would overnight become the most frustrating card in the entire game. And finally, to our numero uno, Dice Jar. 4,000 life points works perfectly fine in the anime, but there are a few cards that can completely break that low life point total, and I can think of none better than this card. In a game where flip effects are pretty much a normal sight in the meta, I have no doubt that this card could literally become a 1-card OTK that would see immense play. Dice Jar's potential 2,500 burn damage would already be pretty insane in Duel Links, but the fact that this card gives both players an equal shot to instantly kill their opponent leaves no doubt in my mind that this card will never be released in the game. So let me know what you guys thought of the list. Did I do a good job? What is your favorite old school card that you think will never be in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links? Leave that in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching as always, and subscribe if you have not already.
With no monsters left on the field, I summon Dark Magician. Declare direct attack.
Ah, you got me.
Told Joe's the master.
GG.
GG.